Welcome back to KingWoes Court, episode 17, Inbound, and we're going back to another type of show, just for a bit of variety, and we're going to be doing I can't believe I'm doing this. We're going to be doing a back catalogue review of Megadeth. And joining me tonight is one of my best friends, Darragh from Horrenda. How are you, brother?
Carl, what a great introduction.
I got a bit tongue twisted. Would you believe me?
Well, look, man, I have to say, you know, it's we're great that you're still around. That you had the bit of a scare, and obviously they can't kill you, man. They can't kill you. So
you can't kill what's already dead, you know.
Well, that's it, man. You know, and it's a pleasure to be on the show.
Thanks.
I really liked the interview they did with the lads a couple of weeks ago. That was.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
I do have one correction to make, though.
Oh.
One correction to make. I have one correction. It's not from you. It's from what Keith said.
That's okay.
He says, because you're never wrong, obviously, except for not liking Megadeth. That's, you know, we'll get into that. But no, he says that my favorite artist is Taylor Swift. That's not true.
Poppy, isn't it?
Three. No, it's three. And it's for the same reason, actually. Right. So she's up there. All right. She's tied. Dave Mustaine and Tom DeLonge.
Oh, right,
The reason is because innovation. They never do the same thing twice. They always change, and that's why they've been around for so long. Yeah. Anyone who can innovation is like the core of what you're staying for as a creative, and you know, it's why I admire all three of them for many different reasons. But
and stay fresh, isn't that right?
Well, look, it's that's it. You know, and we'll get into that when we're talking about Megadeth, because like Dave Mustaine is like the king of. He's like the metal innovation leader, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you compare him to I'm not going to do it that much because I think it's lazy, but compare him to Metallica, like, you know, some people, I love Metallica, get me wrong, but Metallica have been a bad band. Yeah, but they've been a bad band longer than they've been a good band. That's the joke that we have,
true.
You know.
Very true.
And don't get me wrong, some of the hardwired self-destruct is class, but like took nearly 20 years to get there, you know. But
too little, too late.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, we'll get into that. We'll talk about it, and yeah, man, I'm excited for this.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way. I did my homework, so
he did. He was like, you're texting me going, hey, look, what do I listen to? You know?
Yeah. And before we go on, let us just touch on something very, very cool and exciting that you have spearheaded.
Yes.
And we are basically, you talk about it there, and just
we won't go into it too much because it's still early days. But when it drops, it's going to be quick and fast. So I will say that much. So, you know, I had an idea going way back, and I started working on it as an Outis album, and then it kind of became its own thing. And then born in Metal Ireland. Phil was like, oh, you know, I love Roadrunner United. I'm like, so do I. And then I messaged him, and then I was like, hey, let's make this happen. And then a week or two went by, and I was like, you know what? I thought about it. I was like, right, if we were going to do this, how would we actually do this? And then I wrote up a proposal. I posted it, and we got a huge response. And like, you know, pretty much anyone who's anybody is on it, you know, and it keeps growing. You know, as I said, we can't really say who's on it because it just keeps going, you know. But basically the plan is to do between 15 and 20 tracks. And it's made up with basically super groups. So people from all over the bands, all corners of Ireland. And already, man, as a fan of a lot of these guys and girls, I'm just like, whoa, this is going to be unreal. Even the songs that they're trying to pick, like the genres, it's like, whoa, this is unreal.
Of course, I would be privy to what's going on, of course, and for sure. It's very exciting. I have to say,
you know, either way, it's going to work. I don't know how many tracks are going to be on it, but we've confirmed the bunch. and everyone's really excited. And at this early stage, it's great to see that even after the year that we had, where our scene pretty much died in front of us, everyone just is like, right, we're going to bring this back. And it's also for charity as well, which we'll confirm when that's confirmed. But yeah, man, it's going to be cool. And what I'd say is just keep an eye on, obviously, the social medias for pretty much every band in Ireland, because they're all going to be, because they're pretty much going to be announcing it. And so, and obviously when it's all ready and done, we'll come on here and talk about it more.
Absolutely. We'll have a few of the team leaders on it.
That's a great idea.
It's the perfect time for something like this to come out and, as you say, kind of rebirth our scene, resurrect our scene.
Well, look, it turns the engines back on, because I know in Horrenda, like we had a pretty good 2020, all things considered, with the album, the video, and that kind of stuff. But a lot of that was already in the chamber. Now, when we're kind of turning the engines back on, and we're actually building out like our own recording space, and that's how I got the idea. I'm like, if I'm doing this, I guarantee you other bands are doing this. There's no way I'm the only one who's doing this. And sure enough, that's what everyone's been doing for the past year, and that's why it's a perfect time. But I was like, right, let's get back into the writing mode, and the tap's back on with Horrenda, it's back on with Aborted Earth. Actually, I was literally working on Aborted Earth tracks today, because we have 3 things coming out soon, which is going to be fun.
3?
And that's why my Aborted Earth guitar is there. But yeah, man. So yeah, like, it's ridiculous. Like, Shannon does not stop working. So it's just like, and I'm kind of the same. I'm like, all right, but if we need to kind of control ourselves, and having a bigger project like this as well, it's like, okay, this makes us stop writing everything. Let's try to help everybody else kind of get their stuff out, or else we just keep making albums.
It's gonna be awesome. But
can't wait, man. Can't wait.
Watch this space, and I'll of course be updating people when I have information and whatnot. So
yep,
absolutely. Right. So
look, if you're a fan of any band in Ireland, you're gonna like this. If you're a fan of if you're a musician and you're interested in this, you're gonna like it. So I'm excited as both a musician and a fan of these bands. I'm like, well, let's really see what happens here,
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, let's move on to their task at hand tonight, which I'm doing this for you, by the way, because I don't like Megadeth.
You asked me, though. You asked me. You did say to me, do you want to talk about Megadeth? I'm like, yeah, of course I do. So.
Yeah, for you, see?
But I do appreciate it.
The gas thing is, a lot of people who know me know I'm not a big Megadeth fan whatsoever. Now, don't get me wrong.
Right.
I appreciate Mustaine as a musician. He's a badass guitarist.
It's the vocals, isn't it?
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
It was some of those albums were tough to listen to.
But what I will say is, right, like, that is probably the hardest thing. But he wasn't supposed to be the vocalist.
No.
He just ended up doing vocals, and he just stuck. Now, they did get better at certain points of time, and I will say, like, the non-trashy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, Cryptic Writings is probably, like, one of the best albums.
I was very surprised with that, actually. Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, it's such a like, and we'll get into that when we do kind of. I think chronologically is the best way.
That's the way. That's the way I want to do it. And the way I did the other two with Metallica and Iron Maiden, I gave them a little rate now at 10 as well. So, you're the fan, so you can agree or disagree with what I do. All right.
Okay. Well, I had a look here at Metal Hammer's ranking, so I think it's probably going to be very similar. But we'll have a look.
We'll see. Right. So we'll start off. And of course, they started off in '83 in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And they have 15 studio albums, I believe. I have my little iPad here, so I'm looking at me stuff as I'm talking. Yeah. So I think the debut album was "Killing Is My Business" and "Business Is Good." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to pull up the track list there as well.
Yeah. So that was 1985. So what I want to do is just quickly run through each album. Yeah. I say quickly. We could do a deep dive on these kind of things anytime. But
let's keep it like concise, because each of these albums could be a show in themselves,
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, I do acknowledge the importance of this band in metal. I really do. So it's just generally. Now I have to. Don't get me wrong. When I like a Megadeth song, I fucking love it.
Yeah.
And again, we'll get into the songs. But starting off with the first, like, "The Killing Is My Business," I thought that's a great little thing.
Yeah, it's weird. Like the first album, a lot of it sounds very familiar because, well, Megadeth's first album is Metallica's first album.
Basically,
Dave wrote the whole thing, and then he wrote some of the best in the follow up. But I don't know. I think it's very unfocused. Like it's a great album, but they're not there yet. You know, they haven't really
see that. Yeah,
they haven't really figured out what they want to do. It's still still feels very Metallica-ish, but it has some killer tracks on it. Like
the ones I picked out were the Killing Is My Business, Chosen Ones.
Yeah, that's great. That's actually my favorite track on the whole album.
Yeah, Looking Down the Cross.
Yeah, great track.
Mechanics, of course.
See, I hate Mechanics. That's the thing.
I love it.
No, see, I don't like the Metallica song For Horsemen anyway.
Oh, do you not?
Like, yeah, it's the one track on Kill 'Em All, which I'm like, no, that and Motor Breath. I hate both those tracks. I'm like, no, wait. I don't know why. I just don't like them. But yeah, no, it's fair. I do like the cover of These Boots as well.
That was interesting. Yeah,
it was good.
Now here, before we go any further, right?
Go on.
One thing I want to say about all these, we call them legacy bands or iconic bands, right? People always hark back to their earlier stuff, which I find that very unfair in these bands. Again, it's just my opinion.
No, I disagree. I think it's very fair with Metallica because, as I said, Metallica have been a bad band longer than they've been a good band. That's not their fault. No. Saint Anger is a great album. They just should have produced it better. And that was it.
You just called it by someone, by renamed the band. But, yeah.
This is it, right? And this was another thing that I wanted to get into, right? Produce it in a different way or do side projects. It's why, as myself, you know, making music, I'm like, side projects are great.
Yeah,
get all that shit out somewhere else and then come back with your focused band. And that's why I'm like, man, side projects are the best thing you can have because one, it gets all that weird shit out. And then it comes back focused. So this doesn't happen. I think growing up as a metalhead, I'm like, right, in my bands, what do I do? Side projects are a must. Because you can see Metallica, no side projects, go down a cliff. Megadeth, loads of side projects, fine. You know, it's just like, but even still, you get a bit ropey. Like, there's a couple of even saying that when Megadeth becomes Mega Dave, probably should have just called it something else. But then when it comes back, like Dystopia is incredible. And that's probably one of the best Megadeth albums that exists, and that's brand new.
That's the latest album, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so good.
So listen, anyway, with Killing Is My Business, I found it was an alright album, and I gave it 5 out of 10. You know, that was.
I look in hindsight, it's 5 out of 10. At the time, revolutionary. So I think it is kind of worth mentioning. This came out before. You know, they all kind of hit their stride. You know, like it was 84, 85, and like
it's like Slayer with Sean O'Mercy. But I mean, there's more. Of course, I'm a Slayer fan, but to me, I wouldn't go back and listen to Sean O'Mercy very often. But there's people who live and die by Sean O'Mercy.
And that's it. And I'm sure some people love this album too. Like I really like Skull Beneath the Skin as well for the lore nature of it. I just think they're not there yet, but you're definitely listening to them and you're like, wow, okay, this is a strong contender to, you know, one of the big four, which is why they are, you know.
I think Testament should have been in the big four.
I like Testament. I like Exodus too, but they're in the same, like I don't know, don't get me wrong, I love Anthrax, right? Anthrax are a great band. They don't really deserve to be in the big four.
No.
Because they're in the same spot as Testament and Exodus, right? But you had to just kind of have them in. I think first in, best dressed, right? So that's why. But again, some people are like, "Oh my God, how dare you say this?" You know, the black metal are coming here and.
But it's our show. We can say we want.
Well, look, here's the thing. I grew up as a trasher. I was in loads of trash bands. It's why I don't do it anymore because I got it out of my system. You know, it's like. It's fine.
There's loads of them. There's loads of them anyway. So
and there's better ones than what anything I could do anyway. Like Animator are like modern Megadeth for me, which is why I'm a huge fan of Animator. You know, I absolutely love them.
Absolutely. Right. So the second album, Peace Elsby, Who's Buying? 1986.
Yeah. Look, it's one of those albums where it's the first introduction to Megadeth, right? It has Peace Out to Who's Buying, which is a great song. I actually listened to it yesterday for the first time in a while. Devil's Island is great as well, and Wake Up Dead, all kinds of. For me though, it's not. It's the album I listen to least from Megadeth.
Really?
Yeah, which is surprising for a lot of reasons. But I personally think their next one is where I'm like, right, here we go. We actually have proper Megadeth now. But look, it's good, and it's if you haven't listened to it, it's one of the albums that you totally have to.
Well, I mean, of course, like the title track is an iconic song.
Really absolutely. Yeah, sure. Well, as a 16-year-old kid, I remember like playing it in like a school band and stuff like that. So
Deadly.
you know, it's what you do, right? It's one of those where you pick up and they're your entry level bands for a reason, right? What I would say is, unless you're really digging into it, it doesn't stand up as well as some of the other ones, because it's very much Peace Out, but who's buying, Wake Up Dead, Devil's Island, and that's kind of it, even though it shouldn't be. But
I like The Conjuring as well. I like that song as well.
The Conjuring is good, but Dave doesn't play anymore, so you never hear it.
Yeah. And as well as that, you got to remember, like, these albums are coming out at the same times as iconic albums by other bands. This was '86. This was when Rain and Blood came out, and Master of Puppets.
Absolutely. So look,
you know, that's tough going.
It's the weakest of those three albums as well, but not because it's a bad album.
No,
just because I don't think Megadeth have got there yet.
Yeah. So and you'll see that in my rating. It's 6 out of 10. So it's creeping up.
Fair. Look, I would say it's a 5, 6. Okay. You know.
I mean, like, there's more on that I would listen to than the first album. Do you know what I mean?
Fair. Absolutely. Definitely better production anyway.
Oh yeah. Well, that's. Yeah. I mean, I noticed that there's a lot of inconsistency with the production of each album.
Here's the thing, though, right? It's like the remix and remasters came out in 2004. Now I was in transition year then, so I bought them all, right? And that's how I got them all. I would just sit there and I'd have the CD player, and you put it in your jacket for school or whatever. And literally, you would just pick, right, I can pick 2 albums to go for. So it would usually be The Cure, Megadeth, or A Children About Them album, and I'd just rotate those. So that's what you used to have to do. And this is why people who like tapes, I'm like, you don't know the struggle of what it was like before Spotify. You know?
Spotify. Right, so the third album, so far so good. So what? And another iconic year for like big bands. 88.
This is where they really start hitting it, man. This is the one I go to a lot. I fucking love this album, dude.
What did I pick on this? I picked Into the Lungs of Hell.
Yep.
And
excellent.
Mary Jane, of course. In My Darkest Hour. And Hook and Mouth.
Yeah. Oh no, like Set the World Afire as well, because that's where Megadeth got their name. Originally that was called Megadeth.
Right.
But Set the World Afire is great. It's just a really, really good thrash. Proper, archetypical thrash number. Yeah. Killer solo. The bass on this album is phenomenal too. The songwriting is great. Like, Dave's songwriting is superior to pretty much anyone else's in thrash in general. I hate pizza thrash. Hate it.
Is that like
pizza, beer? It's like you are valuing the genre that's supposed to be about something. Yeah. And that's why with Animator, their stuff is very Megadeth. I remember we were playing with them a couple of years ago, and I was hanging out with the singer backstage, and we're like, hey man, we just started talking about Megadeth for 2 hours. And I was like, oh, no wonder. Like, you guys are just, you love Megadeth. But yeah, man, and I think this is where it starts, Megadeth were always about politics.
Yeah.
Always. And, like, Megadeth are the reason that my worldview is the way it is. I fully think that.
Okay.
And it's just like, they were the band that were like, right, the world is not great. Why is it not great? Well, because of these, these horrible things that happen in the world, and we're going to talk about them. Like, Hook and Mouth talks about political corruption, talks about control groups, all because there's great video all about like shot up to different things where it's like Waco and Twin Towers and all that kind of stuff. It's all on YouTube. Well, YouTube censoring stuff now, but you can still find it and it works perfect. It's Dave really was thinking way more than just we're going to write stuff that sounds cool. We're actually going to send some kind of message. And this is where it really starts going into, and I think that's where Megadeth is better, like musically and technically. Dave is one of the best guitar players ever, and also Marty Freeman when he joins the band. It's like, oh, Marty Freeman, yeah, right, man. Absolutely. I'm just, I shouldn't even own a guitar with Marty Freeman playing one, right? But you know, Jeff Young, I think, was the guitar player in this, and he was killing it too. But yeah, this is where you start seeing it. And Set the World Afire and Hook and Mouth are definitely like the start of it.
Yeah. So for this again, and as I say, they're progressing with each album. And again, I'm not a Megadeth fan, so I'm looking at it from a different perspective than say you would. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that album for me was 7 out of 10. It was a
Same.
very good album, I have to say.
Strong 7 out of 10. Yeah.
But here is, sorry for cutting off you there. You were gonna say something to me there. Go on.
No, go on.
The next album.
Oh, it's the greatest thing ever made by humans.
No, it's one. It's a very, very good.
No, greatest thing ever made by humans. I'm not budging on this. Like, for me, this is why, like, with trash in general, I'm like, okay, it's not Rust in Peace. You know, it's like, you can't beat it, right? It's just, you can't. It's just so good. And that's why and I know some, it's no shade as well to the lads who play trash, right? I do respect it, but I'm like, look at it, you know, it's just like, you know what it is? It's like, you know, the Sistine Chapel, and it was painted by Michelangelo, right? And Raphael would go in and look at it and just be like, I can't do that. So they'd always kind of like, and literally there's a book about it. It's called The Pope's Seal, and it's pretty good. But that's the way I kind of see it. I'm like, wow, you know, and like a lot of the bands do kind of get close to it, again, like even in the Irish scene as well.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, holy crap! Like, actually, funny story with the Snowblind lads. They do a hell of a cover of, I think it's Five Magics or Poison is the Cure. I can't remember which one.
I think they do Five Magics.
It's a Five Magics, yeah. And every time it's just like, oh man, that's a killer cover, you know. And then you just remember why everyone loves it, you know. If you play this kind of music, if you've been in those kind of bands, Megadeth, like, this album is just like,
this is their album. This is their album.
No, this is the album for trash fan. I know you love Slayer. Look, I play in a Slayer cover band, which I know this, right? But it's like, this for me, this is what trash is, right? Fundamentally, this is like, it's on musically phenomenally, technically proficient, lyrics being great, vocals could be better. I will give you that, but that's Mustaine. He does what he can. They were strung out on heroin doing this as well, which is even more incredible.
Well, that's okay then, you know. It's
unbelievable, right? But when you listen to them talking about it, they're like, yeah, we go do a bunch of heroin and then come back in and track, and you're like, how did you do that? Like, you know. But like, for me, man, like, I would because I would still consider myself a bass player more than a guitarist, right? I'm guitar by necessity,
right?
But growing up, I would literally come home, play Master of Puppets from memory, play this from memory, and that's what I do. That would be my practice. Just, you know, 16, 17, 18, banging through these albums. So like,
well,
it is.
This is the album I like of Megadeth.
Tornado, but look, there's not a bad track on it. The worst track on it is Doom Patrol, not because it's a bad track, but because it's not the rest of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tornado of Souls is just the solo in it.
Yeah.
It physically moves you emotionally.
Yeah.
And I know some people are like, what are you talking about? Music is supposed to have that emotion.
Exactly.
And that power. And it's just whatever even the guys who play it now, it's still not Marty Free. Whatever he does, it's just like, oh my god, that's just.
Yeah, certain guitarists have their thing.
No, it's God through music, right? That's, you know, it's what they used to say about classical stuff, where like they'd be inspired by the divine, and you're like, oh my god, like, listen to it, like, it's unbelievable. And that's why, you know, if Megadeth had to stop there, it would have been fine, but they didn't, and they wanted to innovate. And after this, they start going towards a more commercial sound, and it's because it's like, I think they knew, we have made the best trash album, so let's do something else.
We could talk all night about this, you and me. I mean, what's the best trash album of all time? And don't say it. It's not.
I'm just saying. All I'm just saying is, from someone who like has read Dave's book and kind of tries to understand how his mind works. Don't claim to do it, but you know, I think it would be the case where, look, you know, we kind of want to see where we can go elsewhere. And they've come back to it to kind of prove, hey, look, we can still do it, but we want to do something else. And I definitely think after this, they're like, well, let's do something else. You know, and to be fair, the follow-up for what it is, I really like too.
So do I. Well, we'll move on then. So anyway, for reference, 9 out of 10 I gave Rust in Peace.
27 out of 10?
Thankfully.
No, it has no rating. It has no rating. It just can't.
Well, that's what I gave it. Okay, and I think
that's fair, and I think that's
pretty
fair.
Good rating.
It's pretty good. It is pretty good.
Right, moving on to Countdown to Extinction in '92. I enjoyed it. I remember this album when it came out. I really enjoyed this album, I have to say.
I was 4, so I do not. I
was a little bit older than 4. That's all I'm gonna say.
I don't remember it, but as I said, you know, dude, it was one that I would listen to a lot. You know, and it is one that had, like, again, Rust in Peace didn't have an impact in my worldview because you're just sitting there going, oh my god, this is just spectacular, absolutely amazing. This one is like, well, it makes you really think about things.
Yeah.
You know, Symphony of Destruction, more relevant than ever, right? With former Vice President Biden. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, with people who run our government, right?
Some of his lyrics, as you say, they're more apt now than what they were back then, even. Architecture
of Aggression, literally what's going on around the world, man.
Yeah.
You know, Countdown to Extinction, still relevant. But, like, it's funny. Sweat and Bullets is still fun too, but it still kind of has the, you know, well, it's like the Black Tooth Grin, you know, the drink that Dimebag used to drink.
Oh.
But Dimebag used to have a drink called Black Tooth Grin,
yeah.
And it's from this, you know, so it's like, wow, the impact that even had in their scene is just like, woo, this is crazy.
I gave this album, just before you go on, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
I think that's a strong rating. I give it a 9, right? Because the reason why is, like, the bass in this is phenomenal, right? And the actual songwriting and construction of this is beyond let's play. Like Dave even says, you know, a lot of guys want to play fast and sing with Devils and Demons. I don't want to, which again, I don't do that either because there's no point.
Yeah.
But you know, you try to write stuff that has structure. I'm not saying that I'm anywhere near Dave and Demons. I'm not. But you know, I still kind of, that always kind of hits with me. I'm like, right, let's try to write something or kind of invoke something that's cool, you know. And he does this through his political like, you can look with Horrenda, you can always tell who writes what, right? If it's political or Celtic, it's gonna be me. If it's not, it's Aaron, right? AE, I love playing with AE for the same reason. I like playing with Axial Symmetry. It's the same kind of thing, and I think like this, it's why, right? Because we're kind of getting into the mud of this these topics, which Megadeth are just fly when they do it, you know, like and even when they're not heavy songs, like Foreclosure of a Dream is not a heavy song.
I like that song.
I love it too. It's so melodic, it's great, but it hits all these great points where you're like, okay, it's heavy when it needs to be, it's melodic, the lyrics are like unbelievable, and it's just a really good, well constructed song, you know.
It is. Moving on, we're gonna go to Euthanasia in '94.
I really don't want to move on because I love Countdown to Extinction. But we have to. I know.
They have a lot of albums.
They do. Euthanasia. Okay, right. When I was 13, I was handed a rake of CDs by my friend's older brother's friend, and going, "Here you go. Here's loads of CDs," and they were like Euthanasia, Rain and Blood, Murder Dolls album, Static X, loads of stuff, right? Pretty much any music I like.
I was going to say a lot of stuff that you would like now.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's kind of shaped you.
And it goes all the way back, right? And Euthanasia was one of them. Now, is it my favorite album? No, not at all. However, has some really, really good tracks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's one you can kind of go back to a lot, but it's not one I'd be like, here, start with. But I think it introduces a different Megadeth. Like the Megadeth that was in Peace Elspeth Who's Buying is not the Megadeth of Euthanasia.
Yeah.
And I really feel it, and it's not because they stopped being that band, it's just because they're not that band. They've moved on, and they've expanded out beyond what these guardrails are, and that's cool. You know, but again, when this was handed to me, it's like, this is the last grey this is the best example of commercial trash.
I enjoyed the album, but 7 out of 10 is probably too low in your mind.
No, I would say 7 out of 10, just because I think with a bit more of, like a lot of these tracks could have gone on the next one, and I think it would have been stronger for it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, but like when this was handed to me as a kid, you know, the guy who I got the CDs off was like, look, this is the best example of commercial trash, which is still a weird statement to hear, and I know a lot of people listening to be like, this isn't trash.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I agree, it's not, but it does kind of have.
No, but you can hear it from, you know, you can tell that it's born from trash.
Yeah,
It's like again, and I just keep bringing them up. It's like Slayer albums that aren't necessarily trash. You can hear elements of trash in the way that they present themselves. You know?
The main thing about Slayer is, and the reason why Slayer are what they are, they never kind of really shied away from what they were. They had their formula and ran with it, and that in itself is admirable. You know, Megadeth wanted to kind of push the boundaries out from that. Metallica forgot who they were.
Yeah.
And Anthrax were just kind of just there as well, just having a laugh. But yeah, man, like that's it exactly. And I would say, look, if you haven't listened to it, you know, you've heard Train of Consequences, you've heard Tool of Mons. So, you know,
Tool of Mons is a brilliant song. I love that
absolutely.
song. Oh.
It is. Absolutely.
And this is the album that, as I was saying to you last night, this really surprised me. Cryptic Writings in '98.
Phenomenal.
I gave it 8.5 out of 10. Believe it or not.
Same. Yeah, I'd give it, if not a 9. It's just like, again, this is just Dave writing songs.
Yeah.
And like you know, I think it's one of the things that I'm lucky to do is write songs. I think that's lucky. You know, to be able to sit down and write music is a real kind of treat, right? Because not everyone can do it, or not everyone can, you know, wants to do it or thinks they can do it. You can, right? Just try. You know, you'd be grand. Give it a go. But like, you know, and I just kind of respect it, you know, more and more as you kind of see them put together, like almost like, and they're not, again, they don't have to be heavy songs. They're just, you know, little belters, right? So like Trust is phenomenal. Almost Honest, Use the Man, All Get Even, Sin, A Secret Place. Even She Wolf Live has a class little solo bridge in it. It's deadly.
I actually put all those songs down.
Yeah, man. But see, here's the thing. They also have again, like when I was listening to these as well, I wasn't necessarily checking out the guitar playing. I was listening to the songwriting and the bass playing. Yeah. And like, again, I'd bang this on and be like, right, let's steal from Dave Ellefson. Yeah. So like, these are all songs you can dance to because the bass is so cool.
You can have a bop too.
Absolutely. Proper bops, like.
Shout out to Keith there.
Well, you know, there's a reason why Horrenda songs are boppy, right? Because they're all written with the bass in mind, exactly. And yeah, look, I say if you like the kind of more kind of songwriting, I don't want to use pop because it's not pop. It's like really hard rock. This was actually, if you like metal in general, like Cryptic Writings is one that you guys should definitely check out. So, if not for Almost Honest, which is just probably one of the most underrated songs of all time.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. So from that high, we're going to a very big low, I think.
Here's the reason. Dave actually said, I pretty much, I know the Megadeth Behind the Music DVD pretty much from memory. I've seen it about 60 times. Again, I was 16. The internet wasn't like super fast then, and I really like Megadeth. So I was like, let's just watch this DVD over and over again. There was no YouTube, right? So, and the reason why he explains it, he's like, yeah, because we tried to go towards a more mainstream sound, and we thought that worked, and then we said, right, let's go more mainstream. Didn't work. And yeah, Risk is definitely the low point of Megadeth. But I will say, Breadline is a great song in general.
I like Crush 'em. I liked.
I like the bass line in Crush 'em, and also it was a WCW song as well, if you remember back in the day. But also like Enter the Arena is cool as like a lead in. I think it was just an album that
Crush.
It didn't need to be made. That was the thing. I think this was just a case of like, right, we could
contractual obligations.
Yeah, well, that's what it feels like. And this would be the last Marty Freeman album, which sucks so bad as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, definitely.
I gave it 3 out of 10.
I would say, yeah, same. It's an album that didn't need to be made, and if you never listen to anything from it, you wouldn't really miss anything.
Yeah. Now I have to be honest with you, Darragh. I kind of went on autopilot from that album for about 3 albums. I have to say.
Right. Okay.
I wasn't overly impressed. They were boring to me for the most part. You know, the next one was The World Needs a Hero. I gave it 5 out of 10.
Yeah, this is when I start becoming Megadeth. I think it has like Return to Hangar is a fun song because it's like
I like that.
Yeah, it's a Rust in Peace callback like sequel, and that's cool. I've never seen that before. I really like 1,000 Times Goodbye. I think that's probably the best song of the whole thing. But like that's about it. But I think like they're really good. But again, like it didn't really need to be an album. You know, I think this
was quite long, isn't it?
Well, look, you know, I think this was just a case of they were touring, and they were touring. They were doing the Rude Awakening tour. And he's like, let's just do an album, you know. And I think, you know, this is where it should have probably went off and been a side project. In between that period, they did the original MD45 in 1996.
Yeah.
And then they lost everything, so maybe that threw them off doing side projects. But yeah, man, like I would say on Spotify, if you listen to 1,000 Times Goodbye and Return to Hangar, and you're fine.
Excellent.
You're fine.
That's all you need on that album. Yeah.
Yeah.
The System Has Failed 2004. Again,
So
5 out of 10 I gave it.
so this has emotional impact to me. I was in transition year as well.
Okay.
Or 5th year. I know I was a kid anyway. 15, 16. And this came out and I was like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. However, also it's the first time I saw Megadeth. I saw Megadeth in 2005 in Orlando as well, with Fear Factory and stuff. It was awesome. But so I have this album signed when I met Dave and the lads at the time. So this does have a lot of really good memories for me. But I will concede that there are some really good tracks on it, but then it just kind of tapers off near the end.
Yeah.
Blackmail the Universe, Die Dead Enough, Kick the Chair. Back in the Day, something that I'm not. Even Scorpion's good too. And then that's kind of it. Of Mice and Men is a really like good track because it kind of talks about his time in Metallica and stuff like that. Actually, this is the most sassy Dave album of the whole lot. He talks about Metallica a lot. You're like, wow, you're really sassy. And it's just like, you know, Angry Dave is the best Dave, but I think like in hindsight, it was like, right, it was just you. There was Chris Poland came back though, the original guitar player, so that was good.
Was that just for one album? Was that a one album deal? Was it?
Yeah, he did all the solos on this. But I have to say, like, I know Jack is class. The actual solo. But here's the thing: this is incredibly political too. Like this one, you want to talk about shaping a worldview? This did it for me completely.
Really?
Like this was around the time of the Iraq War, the first Iraq War. You know, I read a bunch of the Noam Chomsky. I read like, you know, the Michael Moore stuff, and then, you know, I kind of looked into it more and start going, you know, more towards the libertarian view, which is where I never left. Yeah. But it's literally because where this album, where I'm like, whoa, man, war's bad. War's really bad. Look how corrupt everything is. This is horrible. And then as a 16-year-old kid, you're like, not super fun, but you're like, it is what it is.
That's it. Yeah. So, United Abominations, and then next was Endgame in 2009.
Before United Abominations is class. Really overlooked. Sleepwalker, Washington is Next. By the way, the most prophetic song you could probably see is Washington is Next. Like, whoa, proper New World Order kind of stuff, right?
Did we say United Abominations, did we?
United Abominations we skipped, so we're on that.
Sorry,
now.
My apologies.
All right. So United Abominations is like a return to form. I remember like 2007 this came out, and like, yeah, man, a lot of people didn't like The System Has Failed because it kind of tapered off, and even though it was like, oh, it's a 2-track song. This was more kind of like, whoa, all right, we're back here, and Dave's really hitting these issues now again. And it's more topical as we kind of move on, right, with this kind of stuff. Things he brings up, you're like, whoa, this is spooky, you know. Blessed Are the Dead is a really good track, I think. That's a fun little bop too.
I'll finish your point in a second, but it didn't hit me, this album.
That's fair. No, and I look, it's a product of its time, and it's building towards what the next album is, which is kind of like, again, I think Dave's stuff, the albums are like demos of ideas of what he has, and then they kind of come together to form these grand pillars of works. But like, look, what I'd say is, like, remember, Dave forgot to play guitar, like couldn't play guitar because of a Saturday Night Syndrome, and he remixed all the albums in 2004. So like, System Has Failed was kind of like him coming back. This album, United Abominations, was him really kind of clicking back in.
Yeah,
I think that it spend some time with it. That album, you have to spend some time with it, I think.
And I will be re-listening to all these in more detail, in more depth. So it's not like it's just a one and done thing. I'm not just gonna do it and then.
But Carl, what I'd say is, right, like, they all kind of build towards Dave's view of the modern world. And it's like that one's still going through the military industrial complex and America's interaction with what was happening in the mid 2000s. But Endgame is where it's like, and I'd say, look, I'd give that a strong 7 out of 10. 8 out of 10 if not.
I gave Endgame 8 out of 10.
Yeah, Endgame gets a 9 if not an 8. Because it's just like, man, it's look at the world we're in, dude. It's all there. Like, it's just like, wow, you know.
And that's what I need to do.
Very...
I need to I'll focus on the lyrical content next listen round, if you get me.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Like Megadeth not only has like the hardest part, I think, is the vocals for a lot of people, and particularly you as a vocalist. You're like, oh god.
Yeah.
But that's not it. It's more like the instrumentation, the musicality of it, and then the lyrical content. Like the stuff Dave talks about in these albums is just scary. It's like, whoa, you know. But definitely, like, if you haven't listened to Endgame, listen to the whole thing. I
was really high. I enjoyed this album now, I have to say.
It's super good. It's super good.
Moving quickly along, we went on to 13.
Yeah, 13's
2011.
good.
I give it 6 out of 10. I give it 6 out of 10.
Yeah, it's like, look, I remember when it came out, me and a friend of mine were like super into it, and it's when I started like kind of getting back into writing music. So we just did a bunch of demos and stuff like that. Kind of just based on this kind of stuff, so it does kind of have some fun memories. Yeah. But yeah, it's okay. Like I really like Black Swan, but that was written like in 2007, so that's an old song that they brought back. 13's good. I actually really like Deadly Nightshade, but
so do I actually.
Yeah, it's cool, you know, but it's like, it's not one that'd be like, oh, you got to listen to this. It's just, it is good. It has some bops.
Yeah, it's it wasn't like that. Again, it wasn't a shit album. It was 6 out of 10 for me.
Next album is a shit album.
Yes. Super Collider 2013.
Yeah.
I gave it 4 out of 10.
I actually think I reviewed this for Planet Mosh back in the day.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I think I gave it a 4 out of 10 then, and it hasn't changed. Cold Sweat, the Tin Lizzy cover's good, and Kidmaker has bit, but that's about it. There's, I don't know. I did not like. I don't like this album.
Yeah, I really
don't.
I put Built for War down, just kind of something. You know?
It's worse than Risk. It's worse than Risk because it doesn't try anything. It doesn't have even any good solos or anything. It's just,
no, and that's for a Mustaine album. That's lazy.
Yeah,
because he could fart out amazing solos.
Yeah, I think they were touring or something. And it's like,
sounds like another contractual obligation.
That's it, man. You know, and that's something that, like, I suppose we don't think about.
No.
We're like, oh yeah, we put it out. We want to, you know. Yeah. It's like, no, when it's your job or something like that, you kind of have to, you know.
Yeah. And then we're going to finish up with Dystopia in 2016.
Phenomenal.
Well, now,
I remember Tom.
I gave it a 7.
Well, okay, Tom Moylan's going to jump through the phone or jump through the computer because he loves this album, you know. Yeah. And we talk about this a lot. And I think it's great. Like, look, it's not as good as some of the other stuff. I prefer Endgame to it, but getting back to trash basics, it's really good. Like, I think, you know, it's Fatal Illusion is class. Dystopia is, again, holy crap, like 2020, right?
Yeah.
We're living in a dystopia, man. Like, that's what it feels like. Line and State is good. Post-American world, also scary with the you know, the whole fall of the America as the superpower. And Thucydides Trap, again, look, if you didn't know what Thucydides Trap is, look that up. But yeah, man, like, Mustaine stuff gets more evergreen the worse things get, right? And I'm just like, wow, man, you're really ahead of things. But yeah, as far as, like, that's just lyrical content again. But as a musician, return to great solos, return to like catchy choruses,
and it sounds like Megadeth.
It does, yeah. It's like, you know, you could just bang this on early mid-range Megadeth and it would fit in perfectly, compared to some of the other stuff which would be a bit more out of place. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. Definitely, if you haven't listened to it and you're like, oh, Megadeth hasn't been good since, you know, Countdown to Extinction, check this one out. You'll be
there's
right at home.
There is peaks and troughs, you know, there really is.
Yeah.
In the discography, the back catalogue, we'll say.
Here's the thing. Okay, look, before we go, you've missed MD45, right?
I did.
You should check it out. It's fun.
I've heard it's very good.
It's very fun. Fight Hate is class. It's just a it's the first anti-hate song, and Dave's always been really cool with that, just not hate people for the sake of it. He only hates people that deserve it. Like, he built a career in hating Metallica, so it's like, it's kind of funny. The day that music died is great. Nothing, actually really like Nothing Is Something. I think that's great. I've never heard the original. I've only ever heard Dave doing vocals on it, and also I like My Town. I think that's fun too. Look, as I'm saying, is like, if you like Megadeth and you want to hear something completely different, check out MD45.
Right. Well, that's what we will do. And I did enjoy this, I have to say.
Me too, man. It was fun.
I know, like you said, we could do deep dives on stuff, but I like this kind of casual clicking through what we think of the things. And what was interesting about this one was, as I said, I'm not a Megadeth fan, so it wasn't all totally negative. In fairness.
Well, look, it's the thing. It's just not everybody likes everything, and that's just kind of it. But like, I think when you pick a band, that means, and again, like, some people love Metallica, and no matter what they do, it's brilliant. And I think it's a couple of things, because it's like, certain bands get you at certain times, and they have these certain connections, and that's something that can't just be like, oh, I don't like it because of this. It's like, okay, cool, but you experienced it in a different way.
Yeah.
And Megadeth are one of those bands for me where even their bad stuff has redeemable qualities depending on which album it is. Super Collider does not. That's straight out does not, right?
Even a crap name for
it's not good. But lazy. What I mean, very lazy. What I mean is, like, as a person, Megadeth formed a lot of my worldview as a musician, and the way I approach songwriting, they formed a lot of how I do that. And even in general, just as someone I look up to, Dave Mustaine is like, yeah, man, he died twice and he came back. It's just like, wow, that's amazing. It's just, Dave is just cool. And also, as a person as well, I've met him 3 times.
Right.
Once was not a good experience because this is before he patched things up with Metallica, and he wasn't in a good mood. But then the other 2 times he was sound, so that's fine.
I have one story before we go. I've never met the man, but one of my old friends, Paul Shields, who I was in Chosen with, is a die-hard Megadeth fan. And let me try and remember now. I think his friend was over in the States, and he was at a Megadeth show, and he got backstage, and he gave Dave the phone and said, "Here, ring me mate and have a chat with him." He didn't answer the phone.
That's
so Dave left a message for him on his fucking phone.
But here's the thing as well, right? Dave has always been really cool with his fans, which is why it's something that's actually pretty deadly. Because, like, even with the internet kind of stuff, he was like one of the first people to really have that online thing sussed. But it's funny, like, I've seen Megadeth like 15 times, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen them a lot of times.
Wow.
And I love Megadeth, right? It's like, as I said,
I'm getting
just
that.
like, yeah. But like, one time I saw it, I think we were playing Dublin, and he's like, "Listen, I love yous. I'm not going to sit here and talk. So here's a bunch of songs that he's like."
That's what you want.
And everyone's like, "Yeah, deadly." Instead of just saying bullshit, he's like, "We're just going to play loads of songs," and it's like, deadly. Like, funny story before we go as well. I saw Megadeth. I did my Leaving Cert 2007, and they released. They were doing the United Abominations tour then, and I'm like, I did Irish paper. I think it was math, English and maths, and Irish. And I was like, oh man, Megadeth's on Saturday. On Sunday, I'm like, fuck it, you know what? I'll go. And I went, and then I got the flu, and I passed out in the middle of maths paper too. And I finished the exam. And I rang my mom. I was like, here, look, I have to go to the doctor. I ended up being on like 15 tablets, almost like a day for the rest of the Leaving Cert as a result of it. Totally worth it though. Totally worth it. Great show.
Those kind of stories that stick with you.
Yeah, great show. But man, Megadeth for me, they're like, if it wasn't for Megadeth, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I probably wouldn't be the musician I am today. And you know, as I said, when you're looking at the bands I've been in, you know, I've been lucky to be in a bunch of them. But even if you look at stuff I write, like, you know, with Horrenda, with AE, Jamie writes everything, if not Shannon, and I just show up and play guitar or bass. But with Horrenda, it's like, yeah, if it's a political song, I've written it. Because Aaron doesn't really do that. It's not his thing.
Well, there you go. Well, that makes sense then if we're talking about your love for Dave and his lyrics and his content and that kind of stuff. Listen, we're gonna leave it there for tonight. It's been An absolute honor and a pleasure, as always, to chat to you.
Oh man, look, it was great. You know, as I said, I love the interview you did with the lads. That was great. I love all the shows you do, man. I think there's no one else that does your kind of content. You know, now I've joked with you that you're the Chris Jericho podcast of the metal scene, and I just think that you're a great dude. You know, as a friend and as a fellow musician, it's
Cheers.
great. But
you know me, I just do it because I always say I love the bands. I love being able to chat to yourself or whoever it is, and you swap stories. You know, that's all it is.
That's it, man. Road stories, you know, because that's all we can do now until we can play shows again, right? Well, talk about what it used to be like.
If all going well, we're gonna have this thing up and running.
Hopefully.
We will.
Yeah.
Listen, it's again, thanks so much for today. And Megadeth, I haven't been won over by them, but I do respect them. Okay.
What I will say on that, anyone who was like, oh, whatever, yeah, they're a band that you have to spend time with. You know, and there are bands that you have to do that, and it's like, you know, it's even like, you know, black metal in general. Not everyone gets it at first, but you have to sit there and spend time with it. And the more you spend time with it, or certain things that hits in, you're like, wow. For some people, it's the lyrical content. For some people, it's the musicianship.
Yeah.
For some people, it's the songwriting. There's more depth to them. They're of all the big four, they're the deepest band. Slayer are great, but the thing about Slayer is they did
100 miles an hour straight forward. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. They did that thing consistently for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Megadeth were like, we're going to try and really kind of redefine certain things here. Metallica forgot who they were.
Yeah.
They just forgot they were Metallica, you know, for like 20 years. And then they came back around. But Megadeth always knew who they were and stayed staying.
Well, there you go. Darragh, thank you so much for coming onto the court. I can't wait till we can actually do the court as a, you know, in the same room again. And that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, man, IRL. And last time it wasn't even on camera as well, which is...
No, I know. And this is the new KingWoes Court. It's great.
I'm excited. Look at cool background. You know, I tried to come prepared and like Carl just kicks my ass.
I even have a copy of Space Crusade there.
Oh, man. See, he comes prepared. I thought I was going to look good, but...
Right, listen. KingWoes Court, episode 17. Go check out Megadeth and, of course, Horrenda and Aborted Earth. And
buy merch, buy things. I know, in all fairness, we have a bunch of things coming up with Aborted Earth. There's 3 albums at some point, at different stages coming out. Shannon knows more than I do. I just do tracks. Right?
Cool. Well, maybe we'll have a chat with yourself and Shannon and the boys at some point.
Oh, absolutely. And Horrenda have a lot coming up, but again, it's all in the works.
I talk enough about Horrenda on this show.
You do. We appreciate it. We do. We do.
Right. We're out of here. Take care. Yep. Thanks, dude.
See ya, man.